What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. This is kind of like a Christmas and also year in review edition of the show. I'm going to talk about a few different things here. There's not much Resident Evil news, but I have plenty of other stuff to talk about to kind of reflect on this year. I got my die-hard Hans Gruber Christmas sweater on, and we're just already at the end of 2024, just like that. I mean, the years seem to get faster every year. If any of you guys heard Time by Pink Floyd, that pretty much sums up how each year goes by. But yeah, it's very, very fulfilling when you look back on your year and you got done, stuff that you really wanted to get done. You've achieved some goals, some stuff that maybe I didn't achieve or get done, I will put on for 2025. And that's what all of you should be doing as well. Just this year's done, so start planning for certain months and certain things you want to get done, achievements and goals. I know it sounds corny and cheesy, and I'm not here to give you a pep talk about, 2025, but I think as a collective, as the holidays can be, very fun, very festive for some people, it's also a very challenging time of year. So we want to keep everybody in mind here, and as a community here on LTRE, we're always there for each other. So getting through another year, moving on to 2025, even greater things to come, and that's how you always have to think of it. Even if you got a lot of your goals done, maybe you got all your goals done this year, but try to aim higher next year, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. There's a lot of stuff that I got done this year that I was very happy about. There's some stuff that, maybe I could have done differently, but it's done, like it's already, as of recording this, it's the 18th of December. So it's essentially done. Christmas is about a week away, and it's essentially, the last little stretch into New Year's. And then there we are. 2025 is knocking at the door just like that. This year overall, as far as kind of like a year in review little segment of the show, I think I got a lot done that I definitely wanted to do in the wake of no Resident Evil news or coverage. I think there's a lot of great playthroughs that were voted on by you, the supporters, whether it's on YouTube members or Patreon. You guys have been really keeping me afloat with many of these, months. And I think we got done a lot of great playthroughs. Cold Fear, Silent Hill 3 for the first time I ever played that. That was very fun. The new poll that I put up, it looks like Silent Hill 4 is going to be the winner on that one. So maybe I can kick that off at the beginning of next year. But Evil Within was like this close. So I don't know what, to make for the next poll, because it looks like Evil Within might be like the next one that I choose. That is the obvious choice. But yeah, I played Crow Country this year. I played Silent Hill 2 Remake on the channel this year. Some, again, were voted on. Some were just done by default because I wanted to check them out based on recommendations or new releases. And, I replayed through Silent Hill 2 as well, the OG. So there was a lot of horror that was around the channel this year. I just played The Thing the other week. If you guys are listening or watching this on, or I should say listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Libsyn, and you don't really watch a lot of the YouTube stuff on here, definitely check that out. That was actually a really fun surprise because it was my first time ever playing that game in full. I played the original and never really got too far, but played the remaster. And even though there were bugs and, I know as of this recording, a lot of them were fixed, but I actually really enjoyed that. So that was a really fun surprise. So I think the good thing that I've been doing the last 3 years or so, give or take, have been really trying to play other horror games on the channel and not be afraid to take that jump and be worried about what algorithms say or what the, YouTube demographic says, so to speak, because it always seems to go over very well when I play other stuff that maybe people have never been exposed to. And so when they play it or when they watch me play it, they're like, oh shit, this is a really cool game. Let me check it out. So, no brand new Resident Evil releases this year, but it's safe to say that I did a good job at trying to, branch out again, like I have been doing the last couple of years, and just playing other survival horror games. For me, I think what stole the show for me this year, and I haven't played every single game that was nominated for these Game of the Year lists on not only just the Game Awards, but the other like magazine, top 10, IGN article, like that kind of crap, from all these other companies and journalists out there. For me, overall, Silent Hill 2 Remake is my Game of the Year. It's not a perfect game, but it's pretty damn close. I mean, I still really enjoyed Silent Hill 2. I did play through it twice, once on live stream, and then the second one for the review. I've been meaning to go back and give it another spin. I was just giving it a little bit of a break. I didn't want to wear myself out. But other than little nitpicks that I had about it, I mean, my review spoke for itself, and I got a lot of crap for, liking the game itself when it was coming out and when it came out. And then there's Silent Hill fans that agree with me. So you're never going to make everyone happy, but I stand my ground with my review and my opinion on it. It still really felt like a faithful remake that actually added a bunch of stuff that made sense. And as you play through it multiple times, my second playthrough specifically that I did for the review when I was getting, footage and stuff, you do a lot of the things faster because you memorize them like anything else. Like there's people that can beat Silent Hill 2 Remake in less than 3 hours, which again is insane to me, but it just shows like any other Resident Evil game, Silent Hill game, survival horror game, as you play through it over and over again, even if it's a longer game, you can get it down to a science and memorize where to go, and it's not as confusing and overwhelming as when you first play it. But I really enjoyed my playthrough on that, and that was a real big highlight for me because all of you guys and gals that made it out to that, again, really helped me out because that really was like the big stream for me this year. Like Silent Hill 2 Remake was the big one. I think Silent Hill 2 Remake was a really good turnout, and it really surprised me. But that was really the biggest survival horror release this year. We had indie games like Crow Country that I really enjoyed. I know there's plenty of other independent horror games that I did not check out that a lot of you guys have recommended me. So I'm definitely not listing all of them and saying, oh, this was a good game or that was a good game, because a lot of them I just didn't get a chance to play. But I'm looking to change that a little bit as far as maybe expanding out to more indie horror games and stuff like that, because Crow Country was a real nice surprise. And that was leaning towards my Game of the Year for me before Silent Hill 2 Remake. I know some people might be like, really, an indie game? But like, as someone who doesn't really dive that far into the indie game rabbit hole, I actually really enjoyed what Crow Country had to offer as far as somebody that remembers the era of, PS1 survival horror. So I really enjoyed that. And but like I said, Silent Hill 2 Remake, that really stole the show for me this year. I did play Indiana Jones, and I really enjoyed that. So, I don't just play horror. I'm not somebody that's just like, I'll just play horror and that's it. Obviously, on this channel, it has to be a specific genre for it to really attach to people and hit with people. There's a lot of people that want me to play other titles and other games that aren't in the survival horror genre and just kind of more of a variety. And it's safe to say that that is happening. Very much like this channel and Inocula Productions, which is my film channel that I built from pretty much nothing, you know what I mean? For my film channel, it kind of came from collaborating with my friends that I've had in my life since I was a kid. And, because you can't make films by yourself. But the Resident Evil stuff I was able to, create in the early days by myself and just kind of like build it up to something, right? And I think with this third channel that I'm titling right now, Anthony Underground, is going to be like another cycle within that. So it's going to be another attempt at trying to build something up that is definitely going to be, a challenge to get people invested in another channel that is, again, starting from nothing. There's plenty of channels out there that are doing the same thing as far as gaming, and it's a very competitive market to kind of break into when you don't already have a niche kind of lane like I do here. So I'm grateful for that. But I definitely know that like my potential is, even more than what I'm doing now. And there's untapped potential in another channel where I don't really have a ceiling or a limit on where I can go. Now, it's not like I'm completely done growing this channel and I'm going to stop working on this at a, more full-time capacity. But, this is definitely the biggest thing that I have is this channel, right? So that's not going anywhere. But I definitely want to dedicate time out of my day for next year to build that up a little bit. And like I said, it's videos by myself with collaboration with friends that I have the choice to collaborate with when I want. Or if I don't want to collaborate on certain videos, I won't. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where kind of take it as it comes, like different ideas and stuff. And there's a lot, believe me. There's so many games and genres of stuff that I love to play that you guys would like to see me play. So if you are curious about that, or you want to know about that, or follow it, link is down below. It's called Anthony Underground. That is the working title of my channel. I don't know if I'm going to keep that or not. It's a take on PlayStation Underground. But I also don't want people to think that I'm a PlayStation like fanboy jumping on there just talking about PlayStation, because I'm a fan of all games and consoles and genres, as you guys know. So I don't want people to look at the name and think, oh, this guy's just talking about PlayStation. But not a lot of people even know what PlayStation Underground is, so I don't even think they'll get it confused. But I don't know. I just kind of put it out there just to let people know, like, hey, it's up. And I only have like 70-something subscribers or whatever. So it's very early. And I'm not really feeding that machine, so to speak, right now, because I have to focus on this channel and everything else. And but, I know that my potential is more than just Resident Evil. You know what I mean? I'm not just a gamer. I'm a filmmaker as well. So I think having those 3 channels to cycle from will be very healthy for me. And also it would just make sense for me to continue that process and learn. And I might fail while trying. You know what I mean? There's plenty of things that I've done the last few years when I've gone back to doing this by myself, where I feel like I failed in many regards. And then there's plenty of things where I felt like I've succeeded in many regards, right? The only person that's going to be the worst critic on myself is myself, right? So I do have to give myself a little bit of credit for being able to navigate the seas of YouTube, and then also being here for almost 15 years on this channel in February, which I'm going to do something special for that. I hope. I have some ideas, but I will iron them out a little bit and let you know by next month what the plans are for that stream or that celebration. Because 15 years of anything is a big milestone. We got Resident Evil Challenger celebrating their 20 years, and that's a crazy milestone as well. And I'll talk about the RE Challenger announcements in a little bit here, because that has a lot to do with some 2025 plans as well. So looking at everything in the rear view for 2024, there's plenty of things that, I'm happy that happened, and then there's things that, that didn't happen that maybe I want to fulfill in 2025. And I think working on a 3rd channel that's in the process of, kind of being formed, I just want to let everybody know that, that's what I want to do. And I might fail while trying. I'm not sure. LTRE will definitely be busy next year, especially if there's Resident Evil stuff coming out and new stuff to look forward to and promote for the next upcoming RE title. So that is a good thing, where this year was very much just trying to do what I can. Like I said, the other horror games, the Biorans, the mods, stuff like that to keep it interesting. And that will continue in 2025. But I think some of the stuff that I want to do better, as far as, putting out better podcast content for the LTRE podcast. And, this channel does turn 15, like I said, in February. So, it's a big 15-year anniversary, and I just want to make 2025 a successful year on all accounts, on all channels. And then within that, I want to build up that 3rd channel. So there's a lot on my plate, a lot that I want to do, and there's no excuse for it other than I just have to do it. I know a lot of people are waiting for my brand new PC build, and don't worry, that is coming as well. The last bit that I need is the graphics card, and we will be live streaming it here on the channel, and Perry will be helping me with that. So that's still the plan, and hopefully it'll be early next year, so you won't have to wait too long to see that. And at that point, it's basically just, go, go, go. It's just like having the hardware and, everything that can, kind of lead me to these next essential years, where I really have to figure out what I'm doing and where I'm going, in all aspects of my life. So, I don't want to get too deep and personal on everybody, but, sometimes when you're in your 20s, you can have a few years where you might feel like you're asleep and you're just kind of going through the motions. And then some elements of reality start kind of, waking you up in many ways. And I think there's some aspects of that have happened in these last few years. So I think, you kind of have to get a little bit of a fire under your ass. And I think, the last couple years, being able to do things like Keeper's Diary, being able to do some projects of my own, it does really benefit when you do stuff like that and you get that that pouring of creativity that just comes out, and so definitely have to keep positive, like I said, going into 2025, and just never stop learning, never stop growing. And I want to work on more projects, my own film projects, other collaboration film projects, which I can't really mention much of, but the plan is to still work, to still learn, to kind of climb up the ladder in the field, and just trying to learn more in the process, and not be afraid to take that on, because fear will stop you from doing a lot of things, and you want to be able to overcome that fear and bring in, again, a new year with just a whole new set of rules for yourself and goals, because, again, the fact that, anyone could sit here and say that they accomplished everything they wanted to in 2024, even if it's true, there's always more that can be done, right? But don't be too hard on yourself about it. So with all of that year in review aside and everything, am I happy with 2024? Yeah. I mean, I definitely am. I think I did the best I could have, given the fact that there wasn't any big Resident Evil reveals and news to push the channel. Because if you guys may or may not know, like, this channel grows very slow, and that could be due to my own release schedules of things, my inconsistency of live streaming, which, I've been consistent with live streaming, but I don't think I've had a consistent schedule that lets everybody know when I'm going to be live and when I'm doing it and such. I try to make events, but sometimes that isn't good enough to let people know really far in advance. So it's like, if I say I'm live every, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, let's just say, right, as an example, then everybody knows when to expect me. No matter what, I will be live on those days. I think that's what I have to really figure out and adjust next year, because I think it just makes sense for the financial aspect of it, and then, of course, the entertainment aspect of it as well. So, yeah, I want to make everyone happy. I want to make sure that, the content is getting better. I want more into the podcast next year. I want to do more with just everything, all around. There's going to be some things that I try that might not work, but that's how I always have to approach each year, is like taking risks and not being afraid to, again, let that fear hold you back. So, yeah. So without boring everyone with some of that, like, personal insight of, like, how I'm feeling or how, I kind of look at my content overall, I hope everybody did enjoy the stuff that came out of this year. And, again, there's always stuff that I can go back and improve, but you can't go back. You just have to look forward and go into 2025 and make those adjustments and learn from each crossroad or obstacle that you come across, while trying to grow the other two channels, like my film channel and this third channel, in the process. So not losing sight of where I'm at and what is the biggest thing that I have in my life, as far as any kind of response from what I do creatively is this channel. But I'm trying to do, more stuff within the space. I really want to learn and work on more film sets and more, film projects that are, paid gigs or different things that I can do just to make all of this kind of make sense. Because like doing YouTube at this level is very challenging because you're not making a lot of money on ads. You're not making a lot of donations. You know what I mean? So, and that's just me being very transparent. And not every content creator is going to do that and sit here and tell you that it's fucking hard as hell when you're not even up to the 30,000 subscriber, mark. And yeah, so I've definitely sacrificed a lot just to, attempt this. And I still am, I'm trying my best. And even if I fail while trying, maybe I can learn along the way and turn it around. You know what I mean? Into something grander, bigger, who knows? But I can't fall asleep while doing this. I have to keep my eye on my goals and what I want to do. So I'm trying not to get discouraged with those setbacks, but I just want to let you know that it's challenging as hell, and there's no rule book to this. There's no guidebook like in the old late 90s to how to do this shit, because it's a platform that changes every day, and the foundation is constantly shifting. So you have to learn about it. You have to stay on it. You have to stay updated with stuff. So there's plenty of layers that go into that. But with everything, like I said, in the rear view for 2024, we're just going to try to grow and stay happy and positive with some of the changes and embrace some of the different avenues that I will be exploring next year, so we can keep everything moving accordingly. So with all that out of the way, let's move into another milestone that happened this month, and it's something I wanted to talk about on this podcast, and it is the 30th anniversary of PlayStation. I got my PlayStation hat on. I got a bunch of titles here that I'm going to show off. It's not very Resident Evil centric, but Resident Evil does play a big part in that launch of PlayStation. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, it's 30 years. That counts the Japanese release date, right? Yes, the Japanese release of PlayStation was 30 years ago, so it's not the 30th anniversary for Americans, but it's overall they're doing the celebration, they're doing the sales, they're doing the themes on the PlayStation 5, which I think they should keep instead of taking away, because PS4 had themes. Why can't PS5 have these awesome themes and have them stay there? But here we are. And, they released the controllers and everything like that. I actually have the 30th anniversary controller. I don't know if you guys could see that. Again, very cool stuff. My Nemesis figure fell too. Let me fix that. But, yeah, so they did a bunch of releases. They did the consoles, the Slims, the Pros, 30th anniversary. So I wanted to talk about what PlayStation means to me and how it affects my life. And I don't have to go on and on about how, Resident Evil changed my life and how it really was an entry point for me for gaming, because you've heard it before. But I will loosely talk about it again. I think Resident Evil did get me into gaming, as well as a few other games that I'm going to show off here. If you're watching on the video, I'll be holding up some cases that I have, some physical copies of these old games that I still have in my possession that I'm very grateful for. And, Resident Evil is a big part of that. Resident Evil, I have my dad to thank for everything. This classic Resident Evil, signed by Charlie Kraslovsky, not to flex on everybody, but he signed this when he was leaving to go to the airport from Keeper's Diary, when he was, his final goodbyes. Very nice of him to sign it, and it just means a lot. It means a lot. Charlie is an amazing guy. To call him a friend, not just someone that I worked with, but just someone that's just a really down-to-earth guy and just a very supportive guy. in all aspects. Thank you, Charlie. That's all I can really say. But Resident Evil 1996, I mean, this opened doors to gaming, to PlayStation for me, and I owe everything to this game right here. Everything. My channel, my love for gaming, my love for horror. This is it, you know? So you can't really talk about a milestone like 30 years and not bring up stuff like Resident Evil. You know, that was kind of along some of the first few games that were out, at least in America, that really hit. You know, and I know that was in March of 1996. It wasn't in 1994, but I'm kind of relating it back to my personal experiences with these titles. Whether you came in at the 30-year mark, you know, in 1994, or you showed up a little bit in the late 90s, like how I did. I'm 28, so I am a late 90s, early 2000s kid. So my experiences may be different than your experiences. There's a lot of people that are older than me, younger than me. So the goal here for this segment is just to have those warm and nostalgic memories. And Resident Evil is definitely a part of that. I don't have to explain how, you know, how all of these affected me because you've heard it a bunch of times. But, you know, Resident Evil 2 as well. A lot of these are my original copies. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, my favorite game of all time. So many great memories with Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I don't have to go into all that, but, you know, it's incredible. I just remember Nemesis being a, you know, image that was burned into my brain at a younger age. Even Resident Evil Survivor, this is part of those memories as well. Watching my dad play them and then finally playing it myself. And Resident Evil 3 had a significant, very easy mode that actually really helped me play. And I used to use the guidebooks to also help me play. The first thing I ever saw Resident Evil was, you know, the zombie with the head turn. And my dad was playing Resident Evil Director's Cut specifically that night, and I'll never forget that. For as long as I live, I'll never forget that. So, you know, it kind of goes into... There's certain things that, you know, as you get older and you're intaking all this information, and I think this wave of, I don't want to be that guy, but this wave of so much information and so much at your disposal with computers and your phone specifically, and brain rot, whatever you want to call it, with some of the scrolling, there's so much information that I feel like the hard drive kind of gets filled, you know, hard drive meaning your brain. And I think, you know, some memories just go right out the door. But from what I remember from this time, you know, there are certain things that will never leave my memory, because they're just so important. And even though we have this influx of information that kind of kills, keeping some of those important moments, you know, it's good to recognize that, you know, I think why we go back to a lot of these games and why we talk about these things is because it's a key moment in our childhood or our lifetime, wherever you were when this stuff was coming out, you know. And again, Resident Evil is a huge factor. But we get into other games, right? So my dad owned this little game called Vigilante 8, which was a car combat game that I knew about and played. Wasn't very good at it, but, you know, I played it, and it was fun. You know, this is my original copy here. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool. Didn't know that it was trying to kind of cash in on the Twisted Metal craze. So I got Vigilante 8. Well, my dad got Vigilante 8, but I played it. And I was like, that's cool. Car combat, whatever. That was technically my first car combat game. Takes place in the 70s. I do like the 70s aesthetic. But when I was in EB Games one day in the early 2000s, this had to have been 2001, 2002 probably, my brother was like, you know, oh, what's Twisted Metal? Because, you know, I was looking for a new game to play. And I saw Twisted Metal 4. This copy of Twisted Metal 4 right on the shelf. And my brother's like, oh, it's like Vigilante 8, you know? And I was like, oh, all right, cool. And this was my gateway to Twisted Metal. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Twisted Metal 4 because it's 989 Studios. Twisted Metal 3 and 4 were 989. And they, obviously changed up the game. This one is very special to me because without this specific disc, this game, you used to be able to put these discs into your CD player and play them. The music. And Rob Zombie did the soundtrack. And if it wasn't for this little game, this disc right here, I would have not gotten into heavy music, I don't think. Or heavier music. I was already listening to, Aerosmith, one of my favorite bands of all time, Bon Jovi. My dad loved the Doors growing up, so I would, the Doors would always be playing, and just great music all around, like all of it, you know what I mean? From old to new. But this really broke down the door for me with heavy music, because I would put this in my boombox and just listen to it. And I forget, how... talking about forgetting memories, there's you can't retain everything. I just forget the first time I realized you could play these discs in a CD player. I don't know what made me do it, but I remember I would take it into school and I'd be like, look guys, there's this crazy music on here. And I would take the CD player in and I got in trouble. The teacher's like, why do you have that out? Why do you have a CD player? You're not supposed to have that. But then the other girl had the Eclipse. They used to be little units that would play just one song or part of one song that you'd put in your ear. And there was someone that had it and the teacher just told her to put it away. But then when I bring out a CD player for my friends to listen to this cool song, I remember I was like, oh guys, let's listen to the cool song. It was the instrumental track on one of the on one of the maps, and it was a big fucking deal. I was like, come on, but she was a nice teacher. She was very nice. Definitely she didn't tell my parents or anything like that. She was really cool. But that's just a funny memory I have with Twisted Metal. And then I went down the rabbit hole. I got Twisted Metal 3 and 2 over there. I got the discs only. But, of course, I got Twisted Metal 1. And I went backwards. And then by the time PS2 came out, I was all over Twisted Metal Black. I know we're not talking about PS2 right now, but Twisted Metal Black is my favorite PS2 game of all time. That blew me the fuck away when I was getting into Twisted Metal and going down that rabbit hole. So I just want to thank Twisted Metal Black for also showing me a more darker and fucked up side of Twisted Metal that I really fucking enjoyed. That was that was awesome. So Twisted Metal's a huge part in that. We have to talk about Spyro the Dragon. Spyro, I have Spyro 1, 2, and 3, Year of the Dragon. Little did I know this is actually a greatest hits disc inside the Black label, which would happen a lot back then because, you would just get them at the store and they gave you the copy they had. The cases would always be empty. But, I mean, who didn't love Spyro? I mean, that was a staple for me. And, I'll talk about the demo discs in a little bit, but the demo discs were a big impact on me to finding and discovering games. Actually, we'll show these here because Crash Bandicoot is another one that me and my brother played, my cousins played. That was a whole thing in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, Crash Bandicoot right here. Just classic title. Love the first game. The first game I think still has a specific charm that the other two don't have, but I still like how they gradually did improve. Crash 2 Cortex Strikes Back with the lenticular cover. Very fucking cool. And then, of course, Warped with the lenticular cover. And let's not forget Crash Team Racing, which is one of my favorite racing games of all time. I even love the remake of this. Very well done. Crash Bash is another one that I don't physically have here, but Crash Bash just adds to that list of craziness and core memories of the PlayStation. And, again, kind of broke the ground for Naughty Dog and really made their name within the gaming space. So it was cool to kind of be there for that journey. And then I kind of fell off Crash for years when they started to come out for PS2, GameCube, Xbox, and stuff. I didn't really follow Crash after that, after Crash Bash. No particular reason. I just kind of was playing everything else. I was playing more Resident Evil. I was playing more just different genres that I was experiencing on those platforms. Another core memory that I have is Spider-Man on PS1. This is before the Tobey Maguire film came out, and those games came out. This was right before that. This was in the summer of 2000, and I got this one Christmas shortly after playing the demo, and I loved it. One of my favorite games of all time. I love this game. I even love Enter Electro, but this, man, just blew me away. I absolutely love Spider-Man. So much that I did a Let's Play on this on both of these channels. The one I made before this channel, and then when I just made this channel, I had to redo it all over again. But just loved the hell out of this. This was everything about it. The voice acting, the comic book graphics, Venom in this game is hilarious. Just an amazing, Neversoft and Activision release from that time. And I even love the Tobey Maguire games that came out for the movies, but that was, again, just before that. So I love Spider-Man growing up, and there you go. Another Activision, and, this was just Activision, I'm pretty sure. This is Activision and Neversoft. Yeah, it was still Neversoft. Apocalypse with Bruce Willis. And this game, not a lot of people talk about this. This is my original disc and everything in here. This game was fucking challenging when I was a kid. Holy fuck. I remember being in Disney, and I brought my PS1 with me, or I'm sorry, my PS2 with me, and playing this in the condo that we were staying at, or whatever it was. It was like, one of those like timeshare places like near the resorts. And my first time in Disney, but like when we were home or back at the place, I was playing this specifically, trying to beat like the rooftop level. And I was so fucking mad, like, because it was challenging. It's a tough game. The history of this game is hilarious too, with like, it was originally going to have 2 people in it, and Bruce Willis was the co-op character, not the main character, but then they had to cut it because of the AI system not working. So Bruce Willis, they only had to use the lines that Bruce Willis recorded and motion capture. This is when like putting someone's face in the game and motion capture was like very early. So they were breaking ground with this, but Bruce Willis only said the lines that he said, so they had to work with what they had, and when they had to cut a lot of stuff out of the game. Very fun memories of that. WWF SmackDown. I mean, this is like, I love this game. My brother got this for his birthday that year. I loved wrestling back then. I love wrestling in this era. This was exclusive to the PS1. I like No Mercy. I like, WWF Attitude and Warzone, but this is my favorite, one of my favorite wrestling games of all time, still to this day. I love the music. I love the roster. I love this era. And even Just Bring It. Like there was SmackDown 2, Know Your Role. But then SmackDown Just Bring It. Like, that was like, holy shit. Like, the graphics were on another level at the time. And that was, again, a core memory. I didn't play sports games, Like, nowadays, I'm kind of getting into, football a little bit more. I'm getting to that point where I'm starting to branch out into other sports. I always liked UFC in recent years as well. But wrestling was the OG sport that I got into. So that's the history with that. You can't forget Driver 1 and 2. Both of these were, when I saw the creators of Destruction Derby, I was like, I'm in, So Driver 1 and 2. This came out in 2001 or 2000 actually. But, like I said, there was a lot of games that also were still coming out in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. In that time, and I was still playing PS1. I was playing all the new stuff. I loved PS2. We had a GameCube. We eventually got Xbox in Christmas of 03. GameCube we did get in 2001, shortly after release. And, PS2 we had from day one. My dad had his own PS2. I didn't get my own PS2 until a few years later. But I was still always going back and playing more PS1 games. Like, as I got older and better at games, I would always go back to this library that my dad left me of PS1 games that were just mine. He didn't really care. He didn't really go back and play old games. He was very just like, I just want to play the new stuff. I want to play what's current. And so all of this fell into my lap, basically, not just Resident Evil, but all of these titles. So I would go through them. And so even though people were like, oh, why are you playing that old PS1 game? I was still playing a lot of them in the early 2000s, catching up on this, crazy library of games. And I know I mentioned Destruction Derby, and I do have my original copy of Destruction Derby that, again, very, very early. This is 1995 right here. This is the original long box. This disc has seen better days, but the manual's still in here, and the disc holder doesn't even work anymore, but here it is, the original disc. This thing is like, again, it's crazy, man. It's just crazy. It's just crazy how old some of this shit is, and I'm very grateful that I still have some of this stuff, because not only has it gone up in price, but it's just relics of a lost time. Of course, I have my Dino Crisis here, my original Dino Crisis that I had to show off, and that's just part of the Resident Evil era too. Die Hard Trilogy. This is my original Die Hard Trilogy copy. 1996. And just vivid memories. I mean, I love Die Hard so much. I still have my original Die Hard VHS tape from when I was a kid. I watched that thing so many times. I don't know what it was. I loved Die Hard. I love John McClane. I love Bruce Willis. Playing a Die Hard game was like a dream come true. So, I don't know what it was about Die Hard. I just fucking loved every moment of it. And Die Hard Trilogy, I like Die Hard Trilogy 2 as well, even though it's a little bit wackier. I don't have a case for it. I just have the disc left over from back then. There was a few games that didn't survive cases, or if my dad lost it and we just had the disc. And Die Hard Trilogy 2 was another one that I used to actually help my dad out with, because that was 2001. So I was a little bit more able to help with some of that stuff. We also have Duke Nukem Time to Kill. And this was my introduction to Duke Nukem, actually. I didn't know about Duke Nukem 3D until I bought Duke Nukem Total Meltdown, which, little did I know, was technically Duke Nukem 3 at the time. This was kind of like the holdover while Forever was taking forever to come out. But my dad played this and had the strategy guide and everything. So this was my introduction to Duke Nukem. And yeah, that was kind of the forbidden game to play back then. There was a few games my dad wouldn't let me play. Honestly, there wasn't many, but this one was one of them because of the obvious strip club and everything else. But I eventually played it anyway. Gran Turismo, what can I say? Gran Turismo 1 and 2 are classic racers as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, very much a classic in my book. And again, playing the demos would get you into this stuff. So Gran Turismo, can't beat it. Tomb Raider. I have Last Revelations and Chronicles as well, but Tomb Raider 1, Tomb Raider 2, and Tomb Raider 3. I mean, these are essential parts of my childhood as well. My dad would play these, have all the strategy guides to get through it with all the crazy puzzles and all that shit. Just very crazy, like, memories of seeing him play that stuff. Early memories. And I couldn't mention all this stuff without mentioning one of my favorite games of all time, Siphon Filter. This is just another one that I fell in love with and followed a lot. I do remember coming home with this, Siphon Filter 2, and watching my dad play the first level in Colorado with the mountains, and followed it right into Siphon Filter 3. I remember I bought this at a Sam Goody and opened it, or no, we bought this at GameStop, but we brought it in Sam Goody, and I opened it because I was so excited. You know, I was a kid, and I opened it, and I wanted to see the inside and stuff. And then the lady was like, "Don't open that in here. You're not allowed to open that," because like they sold games too. They sold this, but like I was in there opening a copy, so it kind of looked like I was like stealing. But I wasn't. I was a kid. You know what I mean? I didn't know any better. So I always remember that when getting this specific copy right here, opening it in Sam Goody's. So a lot of these copies are original, and so they're very sentimental to me. And yeah, Siphon Filter, what can I say? Like, there's definitely going to be some coverage on Siphon Filter on the other channel when I get it up and running, because it's a core memory for me. This one I didn't play fully until later, like way later, like for the channel later, but Silent Hill 1. I do remember playing the short-lived demo that was on one of the demo discs back then, so I had to kind of put this in here, but also because this is just a, classic at this point. You had stuff like Parasite Eve, which, again, haven't played until last year. I played this and really appreciated it for everything that it was. And but again, another example of seeing video clips of this back then, but never really diving into it. Another essential part of this. Project Overkill. This game was something that my dad picked up in. This was '96, very early, very kind of like a top-down shooter, gory, bloody. I remember the bloody footprints and stuff like that. This is the original disc. I found the manual not too long ago, actually, and then completed it. I was like, oh, I found this in the attic, and I was like, I got to bring this downstairs and complete the case, because for years I had this with just the disc, and again, rated M, and I remember this, like when I was a kid. This background right here, I just remember that. I was like, what is this? It's like a spider monster with a machine gun. It just seemed fucking crazy. Never really made it too far, but I would always play it and check it out. Soul Reaver, another amazing classic game that I don't even remember how I got this or how I found out about it. It could have been demo discs, because that was a big part of my childhood. It was demo discs. Soul Reaver, they just remastered this 1 and 2. I haven't been able to play it yet. I do have it. I just haven't played it. Very cool that this is still being talked about and still regarded as one of the greats, because it really was. And I know this was on PC and Dreamcast and stuff after the fact, but yeah, I played it on PS1. So another one that I played the demo of was Jersey Devil, and then I would eventually pick this up years later, and I finally picked it up. But yeah, Jersey Devil, another kind of like platformer. Look, inside it's got the little ad for PlayStation Underground, which a lot of games would have. A little underrated gem, I think. Some people don't like it. It's a little wacky. Some of the mechanics do suck, I'm not going to lie, but I did like it. And then this was kind of like a later PS1 game, 2003 of all things. This was in Sam Goody, and my uncle got this for me because I was into anime and Adult Swim as well in the early 2000s, when Adult Swim was really good and popping off. And this is one of those examples of a late PS1 game, 2003. Like I said, I was still trying to find any PS1 games I could find. There was PS2 Inuyasha games, but this one in particular was something I wanted, and it was a Feudal Fairy Tale. Really enjoyed the fighting. It was only in Japanese, which at the time I didn't hear the Japanese voices, so I was like, what the hell? You know, I'd only hear the dubs on Adult Swim. I'm moving through these somewhat quickly because I don't want to take up a lot of time, but just wanted to go over core memories. This is another one, a 2001 game, Harry Potter. You guys might be like, what? Anthony likes Harry Potter? Well, you know, I've seen all the movies now, and at the time I only saw the first one, but I had this game. I rebought this. I did trade it in at some point. I didn't play it too much, but I did rebuy it just for the 2001 memories here. But again, another example of a later PS1 game that was still pretty fun. You know what I mean? They eventually moved on and made other ones for other modern machines at the time. We couldn't talk about some of these titles without bringing up Metal Gear Solid, another one that I found through the demo discs, but also became one of my favorites of all fucking time. I love Metal Gear Solid. And Metal Gear Solid VR missions, another one I found through the demos. Even though VR missions are technically on the main Metal Gear disc, this one I still really like. Just what can I say about Metal Gear that hasn't been said? It's just so good. Medieval 1 and 2. I only have Medieval 1 disc only, and that's in a binder over there, but this is Medieval 2. Another one that I got hooked on through a demo. Like, demo discs were a huge factor in my PS1 days. And if you guys don't know, there was a bunch of game magazines back then: Electronic Gaming Monthly, PS Extreme, Official PlayStation Magazine. The list goes on. But the official PlayStation Magazine discs would come every month, and my dad was subscribed to them, but he was also subscribed to the PlayStation Underground, which, if you don't know what PlayStation Underground is, it was, you would spend, $30, and you would get, 4 2-disc issues a year. So basically, they would come in something that looks similar to this, where I have all of these, actually. I have all the issues, but, it would have, like, Lara on one side, and then you would open it up, and it would have, like, the ads for the games that you're about to play. And the first disc was always behind the scenes insight of, like, different E3s and different gaming news that you couldn't get anywhere else. And then the second disc was always the Vault disc, which was always the demos of games that they were talking about. And some of these demos were always on these first. They got the dibs on these first, PlayStation Underground, obviously. And so if you subscribed, you got the exclusive stuff. You got exclusive stuff with merch and deals. These two in particular are burned into my brain as a child, because these are a few that my dad actually had or held on to. And oh my God, on here you had Tiny Tank, you had Metal Gear VR missions, you had man, what else was on here? Ape Escape, Unjammer Lammy, Jet Moto, Omega Boost, Crash Team Racing. I mean, like, these right here, again, burned into my brain as far as these discs that I'll never forget. And these are my originals right here of these. Same thing with this one right here, 3.2, which I think this was talking about E3 at the time for $99. So big deal. Some of the disc flipped over here. But again, disc 1 would always have Maggie, the PlayStation girl, and then you had the second disc with Ape Escape on it. Again, very cool. Loved it. Love this stuff. And then what some people might know is the Jam Pack discs. So this one came with a PS1 machine. These are basically little advertisements for PlayStation Underground. So essentially, look at this as kind of like a greatest hits disc of, like, a band that you like, right? It's like all the compilation of the best demos from there's certain quarters. So, like, this one has Medieval, Spyro the Dragon, Metal Gear Solid, A Bug's Life, Cool Borders, NHL Face-Off 99. So this is like 1998. Tomb Raider 3, Small Soldiers. So this is one that a lot of people remember. So essentially, these are like miniature versions of these issues, where you'd get some behind-the-scenes stuff cut from some of that, some demos cut from one over here, pulled it together. So I have all the PlayStation Undergrounds. I have all the Jam Packs. I have so many demo discs, guys. It's actually insane. And maybe I'll show that off on another video. But yeah, like, I have a crazy demo collection for PS1 because it's such a core memory for me. And yeah, I mean, there's just, what else can I say about PS1? There's so much memories, and, like, my entry level into gaming was with this machine. Something I wanted to show was this is the original PS1 that my dad got in. This was manufactured in September of 1995, so it had to have been late 95. This is the one with the audio out and video out as well. And then, of course, the laser is in a different spot. And originally they had them here, and then there was a problem with a lot of consoles, so they moved it. People used to have to play it upside down and shit like that just for some things to read. But yeah. Essentially, this is the original PS1. Now, shout out to Perry. He actually brought this back to life. The power supply was shot. He brought it back to life. But then we found out the disk drive needs to be replaced, or the laser has to be replaced. So I have to work on that so we can get this thing back up and running. And then this was my machine, September 1998, right here. As you can see, it has a little bit different of a back, and then the laser is in the corrected spot that they eventually made all the machines in there. But again, still have them. They still work. for the most part, besides the first model. And then Perry also hacked this for me, but I didn't get this back in 2002, 2001, 2002, when it was a real big thing with the portable TV screen that you can get with it. But this is a PS1, and very happy I got this eventually. 2000, 2001, 2002, PlayStation 1 was kind of phasing out a little bit. You could still play backwards compatible games on PS2, so that's why they kept it moving. But, this was the last, model console that they made, where the gray ones were becoming more, pushed aside, and they were really pushing this one. And it's great. I love the size of this thing. The DC in power is a little bit different on this guy, as you can see. But, I don't have much. I do have kind of nostalgia with this now, but I just didn't get this until 2010. So I got it a lot later. It's like one of those things you ask your parents, oh, can I have this? And they're like, why does he need that? He already has 2 of them. Why does he need a portable PS1? But yeah, so here we go. We got that now. 30 years of PlayStation. It's kind of crazy how fast the years go by and time flies. But, a lot of the titles that I showed off here are just, along with Resident Evil, are all just, again, core memories for me. And just wanted to kind of dive into some of that nostalgia rush that we get with some of these older games. And these milestones really make you kind of think and go back. And, it's just a different era in gaming when we actually got full completed games and there wasn't stuff incomplete and, all this stuff that's wrong with a lot of gaming now. I always find myself going backwards and playing other games and stuff like that. And even when I was younger, my dad would go. There was one time where he went and got his Genesis and got his Nintendo, the NES, the very first one, and we played those games as well. He showed us what came before the games that we were experiencing because he played everything. So that's when I had an appreciation for not just championing one console. I just played everything, and I was grateful enough to have access to your GameCubes, your Xboxes, and everything else. Going forward in the early to mid 2000s, and we got some amazing games and just a great generation to be a part of. So it makes me grateful because it seems so long ago, and it was, but it's just it doesn't, I don't know. I just think there's a certain connection that we find ourselves having with some of these older titles or older releases. And if you were born in the 80s before me or 70s even, and you experienced Nintendo like how I experienced PS1, it works the same way as far as, just certain things hitting you in a different way and you kind of making that your own gateway into everything else, checking out Sega, checking out Atari. It's the same thing here. Dreamcast was also a big thing in my house as well. My cousins had Dreamcast. We had Dreamcast. So that's other memories that I have, playing House of the Dead, Mortal Kombat Gold, Crazy Taxi. The list goes on. I mean, there's so much cool shit. Getting the keyboard for Typing of the Dead at EB Games for $30, little things that just I'll never forget. And happy 30 years to PlayStation. That is a crazy milestone, and we'll be hitting our American milestone really soon. So I guess they'll maybe do some more sales or more celebration. I don't know how Sony's going to handle that, but just really wish that we had some of these other PS1 titles that are on the PS3 store now on PS5. I know that they have been, working their way on adding more to the library, and that's great, but we still need so many more PS1 classics that aren't on the PS5 store, so hopefully they definitely work on that this year. Finally, I could talk about this last bit on the podcast here that I definitely wanted to wait until all of the announcements were out in the open and I could finally talk about it and no longer have to keep it secret or under wraps. But for the 20th anniversary of Resident Evil Challenger, I will be partaking in the biggest challenge yet on the channel. Yes, 4 challengers, 16 Resident Evil games, 24 hours. Very, very ambitious, but we're going to do it. And I am excited to say that I will be a part of this challenge with Nuji, Nathan, and Izzy. And to join the OG squad like this, in an occasion like this for the 20th anniversary, I am beyond honored to be asked to come into this challenge with being a, fresh one that has never really done a challenge up into this extent. Izzy obviously has done challenges as well in recent years. So I don't even have, any kind of like, history doing 24-hour specific challenge. Now, I've collaborated with them and done the dice lock stuff before, which has been very fun. And so I've done those collaborations when I've gone over there, which has been always a blast, always a good time. But this is my first 24-hour challenge. So they are well seasoned in this, where I'm kind of going in very green, but definitely have a skill of Resident Evil and an appreciation for, the just the challenge that can come with any Resident Evil game. Any given Resident Evil game at any time can always just turn around on you just like that. So I'm definitely not a stranger to that. But doing this in 24 hours is going to be tough. I am going to be, flying over there a few days before we start the challenge. So I have to make sure I get my sleep. I have to make sure I get my practice for a couple of things. Now, we're not diving into all the specific games and stuff that we're doing yet, because we are working that out. The only thing that I can confirm, because I know it's been talked about on a live stream, and that is the Resident Evil 4 Remake race that we are going to do. So it's kind of like, we all start at the same time. Certain things are set, and boom, we're off to the races. And that's one that we can officially announce. But everything else, you're going to have to wait and see. And definitely subscribe to the Resident Evil Challenger channel. I'm going to put the link down below, because there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming out next year for the 20th anniversary. Remasters of old challenges that you guys remember from back in the day, all the way from 2005 to, the first 3 seasons. I think he's going to be remastering. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to get a lot of people hype and excited. I would love to do, another podcast with Nuji or another live stream on either one of our channels or both, just to promote everything. And yeah, guys, it's going to be the biggest challenge yet. And I still am pinching myself that this is happening. And of course, it wouldn't be a UK trip without the Resident Evil Challenger meetup. This will be the 4th Resident Evil Challenger meetup that all of the team have been working hard to organize for you guys. And it's amazing to meet all of the fans, all of you guys and gals that watch this content and Resident Evil Challenger. Like I mentioned before, we do have some kind of crossover, definitely with fans. But if any of you guys that are watching that, you might not know about the channel, or you're just learning about all this stuff, if you are in the UK, if you are around the London area, like this specific area is Elephant and Castle. That's the area in London where it's taking place. It's going to be on Saturday the 14th, a week after the challenge, June 2025. So again, Saturday, June 14th, 2025, from 6 p.m. to midnight. And that is where we're going to just have a few drinks, have some food, play some games, and have a good time. And if you want to come out and, meet me or anyone else from the crew, definitely come out and just have a good time. There's a lot of you guys and gals that I've met through Resident Evil Challenger that also watch my stuff, so it's been fun to, meet everybody. And one person in particular, Dwayne Johnson, not The Rock, but one of our viewers, Dwayne Johnson, who lives in the UK, he actually came out the last time I was there in 2022, or 2023 rather, because I came out in 2022 and 23 to the UK. He was there, and he didn't really know much from Resident Evil Challenger, but he came there just to say what's up to me, but also to meet everybody else. So again, it's perfectly fine no matter where you fall in the fan side of things. It's all Resident Evil fans. It's all just a bunch of nerds getting together, talking the shit about Resident Evil, just kind of like just having a good time, right? So this will be an amazing opportunity to meet some of you guys, but definitely message Nuji on Discord if you want to book a spot. He will go over with all the details and the prices of everything. It's pretty reasonable. And if you can't get in contact with Nuji for whatever reason, he's always on there replying to people and ready to message people back. Just message me and I can forward it to him and we can work something out. Because he definitely encourages some of my viewers to show up as well. I do have a decent UK demographic on this channel, so just want to let that be known. So there you go. 2025 summer plans are already in the books, and that is going to be, again, Saturday, June 7th for the challenge, and then a week after on June 14th, Saturday, for the meetup. I am so excited I can finally talk about this, and I can't wait to meet all of you and just reflect on the challenge, because at that point, everybody's going to be asking us about that challenge and how it went. So this will be a very different meetup in many ways, because it's going to be like, the reflection of like what the hell just happened with that challenge a week before that, So it's going to be very fun to get into it with a lot of you guys about Resident Evil, about what we just experienced with that big challenge, and we're going to make it a good one. So again, it's just the collaboration and the stuff that I want to do next year. That's part of it. This is all part of that. And, it's, again, something I literally grew up watching, and now I'm a part of it. So it's definitely a dream come true. And it means a lot to me that they would have me, and they want to have me around, and be a part of this, legendary stream that's about to take place in June. So, but yeah, so with 2024, there was some stuff that we were secretly working on, like that trailer that Nuji shot and put together was fantastic. Dwayne, shout out to Dwayne, who did the music for Keeper's Diary, also did the music for the Challenger trailer. He's a good guy, and just a big fan of all of our channels and what we do, and just loves the franchise, just loves Resident Evil, as you could tell. So yeah, just great little secrets were happening at the end of this year that I couldn't really talk about until now. So it's good to just finally have it all out there. So, yeah, guys, I mean, not much else to say for this podcast to kind of wrap up this year. I'll be live a couple more times in December, but that's about it, and we're just going to try to hit the new year fresh. I know the Game Awards came and went, and there was no Resident Evil announcement, but there was Onimusha and Okami 2, which I think are just amazing responses to fans asking for this stuff to come back. There was a lot of survey response for Onimusha. There was a lot of survey response for Okami. So it's cool to see Capcom is still working hard on Resident Evil. It'll come out when it comes out as far as the reveal, but they're also listening to fans for the other franchises that they want to see come back. So shout out to Capcom. We'll definitely see something with Resident Evil 9 or another remake at some kind of PlayStation event or Capcom specific event. Maybe sometime after Monster Hunter gets released in late February. We'll see. But I will let you guys know what is going on with any of those events as soon as I hear something about it. I will be live covering it. So cheers to 2025. 2024 is in the books, so on to bigger and better things. And hope all of you have been well. Thank you so much for the support this year. I couldn't do this without you guys, literally. All the members, Patreon supporters, even if you just like and watch the video, it helps out a lot. So subscribe if you're new, hit that like button. And like I said, cheers to 2025. Best wishes to everybody, and hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year.